Hi, everybody. Thanks for being on the call. It's great to see so many great faces. I will get started in just a second. Still have some people popping in. Okay, we are recording this, so I just ask that if you want to ask any questions at any point, please don't say the name of your child, so we just can keep them in reverence and confidence. But we're here to just talk about who we are and help you to get the best start of your year. Some of you, your children have already been on campus this year, last week or this week, and others of you will start later this week or next week. And so we just want to take this time and, be with you and talk about who we are as a school. And, oh, I don't even have the right date on the family orientation. Isn't that great? What a way to start. So ignore that. Wow, forgot that part. So we will, there was the picture of all of us out at the beginning of the school year this year. Because we were closer than 3 feet, we all put our masks on together. It was a nice warm day. We were very fortunate, like every organization in the nation. We had some staff transitions this year. People just thinking about what do they want to do. Some moved. We had one staff member move to the East Coast the week before school started. So we just a few transitions, but put together an amazing group of people that we are super excited about with the new people that have come along, and all of us were happy to get back in the building together. I'd love to see who we have on the call, although we probably don't have time to hear each one of your stories. We would love to see you kind of raise your hand if you're in a different level, so we kind of know that part. So if you have a child in the early childhood level or the nursery, if you could raise your hand, we get kind of an idea about that. Some of you raise your digital hand, some of you your other hand. You can raise your digital hand if you want. That would be great. Awesome. So it looks like about 9 of you have children in early childhood. 10. Okay, perfect. 12. It's usually our biggest group. 13 of you. 14. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. You can go ahead and put your digital hand down, or you can keep it up if you also have a child in the 6 to 9 level. You can go ahead and raise your hand. We see how many of us are represented with that 6 to 9-year-old age level. Great. Like about eight of us. Great. Thank you for sharing. Keep your hand up if you have a child also in the 9 to 12 age level. 9 to 12-year-olds. Great. About 5 of you. Perfect. And 12 to 14 age level. So that 7th and 8th level, we just call them the 12 to 14 age level. We have a couple of you in that age level. You found your digital hand, that little handprint down at the bottom. And then the woods, the 14 to 18 age level. Some more hands popping up. Great. All right, well, thank you very much. I do have some coworkers here. They're going to be monitoring the chat for me. But feel free, we'll kind of talk about some things. I'll leave some space if people have questions about the different areas. This is just a time for you to get as much information so you can start your year. Sometimes people don't know, who do I talk to about this or that? So we wanted to just have a time with you so that we can talk through just some general philosophy to help the year get off great. I think Amanda and Jessica, did you have questions, or were you just, your digital hand just still up? Make sure we answer it if so.
No questions, sorry.
Okay, no worries, thanks. Okay, you're seeing my screen okay? You're seeing the PowerPoint? Perfect. So I think, do we have some people on the call yet, Melissa, with the Parent Involvement Partnership? So
we do. And I want to let them do their talking, but before that, they wanted to show you their video in case you don't have a chance to do that. So I'm presenting it just to hopefully avoid any technical difficulties. Hopefully I won't have any. So I'm going to hit play on that, and then I will introduce our people from PIP.
Amanda, did you have a question?
Sorry, no, I forgot to take my hand down.
Oh, no worries.
Hi, my name is Cassie, and I'm a parent here at Community Montessori and a member of Parent Involvement Partnership. And so are you. Parent Involvement Partnership, affectionately called PIP, is the school's parent organization. All school families are automatically members of PIP. But the larger organization is overseen by a small leadership group called PIP Council. PIP's main goal is to be good stewards for community building here at the school. We do this through in-person gatherings, volunteer opportunities, workshops, fundraisers, and other events. PIP is behind great community events like book fairs, fall festival, staff appreciation week, and spring celebration. As a PIP member, you are an important part of our school's community, and we are excited to see how you get engaged with our school family. As a reminder, during enrollment, your family committed to spending at least 10 volunteer hours each school year involved with your studios and with the school. We're excited to help connect you with volunteer opportunities that fit with your unique skill set. Aside from being stewards to volunteership and community building, we also support the studios throughout the school with our PIP grants. Any staff member at the school can apply for a PIP grant to cover programs, materials, and events at the school. In the past 5 years, we've distributed almost $18,000 worth of PIP grants to support projects throughout the school. Our PIP grants have covered things like science lab tables, weather balloons, archery equipment, cameras, equipment for our performing arts program, and so much more. We fund the vast majority of our PIP grants through simple and community-based fundraising. You won't see us selling popcorn or wrapping paper here. You'll see opportunities to help with fundraising throughout the school year, but right now we have 2 very important tasks that we'd like to see every family in the school complete. Signing up for Kroger Community Rewards and Amazon Smile takes less than 90 seconds, costs nothing for you, and generates the majority of our fundraising dollars in a school year. Both programs work by donating a small percentage of your regular shopping bill back to Community Montessori. Just last year, we brought in $5,600 just from these 2 programs. Kroger Community Rewards and Amazon Smile. You'll also find links there to connect with PIP, learn about your volunteer commitment, and log your volunteer hours. Be sure to sign up for Kroger Community Rewards and Amazon Smile today. Every single purchase you make at Kroger or Amazon could directly benefit your learners' studios. Keep an eye out for our PIP Connection emails throughout the school year with more information about how you can get involved. See you soon.
Wow, thank you to Pip for that awesome video. Amazing. Sorry, I got background noise there. Now I want to take just a second and introduce Jamie Yeager. Jamie is our volunteer coordinator on our PIP Council, and she wanted to be here live and in person just to give you a little bit more information and ask you for your support.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa. Welcome new families and returning families if you're here. Excuse me, just as soon as I unmuted, I felt a sneeze coming. I think it's going to pass. Okay, so welcome to me. Yes, now you know. Nervous sneezer. Okay, so so as you saw in our little explainer video, we do the best that we can with inviting the rest of the school community to partner with us and with the school to provide that those funds for studios and as well as just, you know, community building activities. Of course, 2020 was very different. And I don't know if this is still available, but if you haven't, if you're a new family and you haven't seen our spring celebration at the end of our last school year, really gives a great insight into just what kind of community you have accepted this invitation in and have agreed to partner with. So I don't know if that still exists, Melissa, to be accessed, but perhaps we could get a link to that in the chat too, so that you can just kind of see what the vibe is, how we work together, even in really hard times. Thanks, Melissa. She's going to drop that in the chat. So as Melissa said, I am the volunteer coordinator and the fresh vice president of PIP Council. I'm going to say that there was extensive vetting in that process, but it was really just me saying, all right, guys, it's my turn. But I'm super excited. It's so fun to be coming back together in this new way and navigating these waters together. So I am a parent of 3 learners. I've been with Community Montessori for about 5 years. And so let's get going into really like what I'm here for. So due to the, you know, extensive COVID mitigation care that the school is taking, we can't at this time really identify volunteer opportunities inside the building, outside of subbing, of course. So mark your calendar for the virtual sub workshop coming up in September. So since we can't really volunteer inside the building, at our last PIP meeting, we talked about reviving studio coordinators. And studio coordinators are like, you know, the what you would identify as the room parent, right? So that liaison between the studio and the teachers and the families. And that coordinator, every studio has one, and they can, you know, facilitate what needs might occur in the studio, or reach out to parents in the studio for volunteer opportunities. Those volunteer opportunities probably to you seem like, sure, I can cut paper for a couple of hours, but that volunteer time that you give back to your studio and the teacher is, you can't put a price tag on it. So if you see, first of all, if you're interested in being a studio coordinator, keep that in your back pocket and connect with us. But you also might see some communications coming out to you as a parent from your studio coordinators. So we'll be reviving those coordinators, those liaisons, and the first step of kind of revamping our volunteer program for the school is to invite you, if you're interested, to become part of that cohort. And if you've already expressed interest, which you may have, you'll be hearing directly from us to kind of see what this looks like for you and how you can help out. If you're curious about other ways that you can help, or if you're curious just in general what's going on with PIP and the school, this week and for the months to come, you'll receive a newsletter from us, the PIP Council, called the PIP Connection. And you'll see what's going on. You'll see some opportunities to get involved. And most, if not all of these opportunities, again, will either be safely from your home or on school grounds when school is off hours. So perhaps weeding a garden, for example. So if you have interest now, if you can't wait, you can shoot us an email, or you can wait and see how this develops as the coming months, progress. Keep your eyes peeled for getting involved. Melissa just dropped our email address, pip shiningminds.com, and any one of our wonderful council members will be in touch with you and get you to the right place. So that's all from me. I appreciate you and looking forward to being together.
Thank you, Jamie, so much. And for all the PIP Council, unlike PTO or PTA, these are just fantastic humans that volunteer their time. There's no membership fees for any of our families, and you get to take part in all the activities. The video that was shown was all put together by one of our PIP Council. She's on the PIP Council, right, Cassie? Yeah, and so she also has a website. Anyway, we have some so talented people at our school. So anyway, thank you, Jamie, and all of the PIP Council for finding ways for our families to get connected and be part of the school community. Thanks. Also, some of the cupola staff. So wanted to, so I'm Barbara. So Glenn and I, and Glenn will talk about himself in just a minute, are the founders of Community Montessori, as well as our own 2 children went to the school. Our oldest was in the first graduating class, who's actually on the call, and will have her children here in our school this year. So that is really cool. We have our alumni come back, and there's several of them, I think about a half a dozen now, of our alumni that have children in the building. So that is super, super cool. I'll talk a little bit about the history, but feel free to connect with me. I do lots of things at the school, like connect families with staff, any kind of worries about learning or needs of the studio, specifically with the teachers. Sometimes I'll meet with parents, with teachers for any kinds of needs that are had. I'll do all kinds of things like that. I mostly work with the staff and with all of the cupola staff in making everything roll. And so we have lots of different hats in a small organization. There's about 60 staff members at the school, and we all wear multiple hats. Speaking of multiple hats, Glenn is one of those. Glenn, tell us about what you do.
Well, everybody knows what I do. Obviously, I stand up at the top of the hill and I wave at them as they come in and they leave every day, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, as Barb says, we do multiple things. So part of my job is family liaison. So that's to help with enrollment, take care of any questions that you have, kind of help facilitate the transition. The other thing I do a lot with technology. I also do a lot with accounts receivable. Let's see, we talked about enrollment. I oversee our environmental services as well. I do support Michael and Mary with extended learning. So quite a few things that we do. But yes, like Barbara indicated, it's been a joy here. She hasn't brought this up, but usually when we first started the school, the funny story goes that really wasn't sure I was wanting to be in education, being with a business background. And I told her when she's going to start the school that, okay, well, I'll give you a couple years and to kind of help this thing get going. Obviously wanted something really positive for my own 2 children. But after that, I'm probably going to get out and go do my own thing. Well, 21 years later, is that right? 21st year. So yeah, so we're here. So there you go. Still going. That's pretty much it for me. What else?
Yeah, and I know some of you have asked questions about what if my child is quarantining. We are putting together a process for borrowing laptops or Chromebooks, actually. So that'll also be something Glenn does. If you have a need for that ahead of time, you're welcome to email him or Prerna, who's up next. Prerna, tell us about you.
Hi, my name is Prerna, and I help and support Glenn and Barbara with all the things they need help with. I mainly support Glenn helping out, getting a learner on board for enrollment processes, enrollment forms, helping Glenn out with extended learning, enrollments and fees, and, just being as helpful as I can be.
Yeah, I like to reiterate, she's my left hand, and that's really big because I'm left-handed. So just wanted that to be, she does everything that helps me be successful. So a lot of kudos go to Prerna. Yeah,
Prerna is the motion behind the scenes with all of the enrollment packages and so forth. So we are very appreciative. And so if you ever have a question about fax, Prana is the person to talk to. What else, Prana? Was there?
I mean, enrollment records. I mean, they can shoot me an
Records
email
request.
and I can help them. If I'm not the person, I can help them point
That's
in
right.
the right direction.
Yeah, thank you, Prana. And then Melissa Coles, and she's the one that helps to make sure that we all get paid and that all the bills get paid, and that's also a really important job. Melissa, what else?
I deal with all the finance stuff with Barbara, and I help support where it needs. I don't know, where people need help. I'm here to help, but mainly with the finance stuff. So, and onboarding new staff. So, yep, that's what I do.
And Melissa and Prana and all of the cupola staff, actually, we call it cupola because the little piece of windows that stick up at the entrance of the school is called an architectural cupola. So that's why we call this the cupola staff. And all the cupola staff, we decided why not do something really new during a pandemic. And we got rid of all of the old software programs that functioned for us, all the learner software programs, the finance software, payroll, human resources, and we did all new things. So our heads are spinning a little bit at the start of the school year as we're putting all the new things into practice. So big kudos to Prana and Melissa for getting all that off the ground, and it will continue as we get to learn more and more. And then Melissa Wiesinger, master of all trades.
I already got to talk because of one of my things. But I do a lot of volunteer and external relations and communications kinds of things for the school. So I work with PIP. I'm the PIP liaison. I also support our board of directors and things that they need. I do social media for the school. If you get things from School Messenger, I help do that process. So again, Prana, you can always start with her if you have a question, but things that pertain to email, sometimes you'll get an email from me about that, or communication, trying to figure that out for you. Also a little plug, if you have not already, I would text 67587 to just text the letter Y to that. That'll make sure that you're signed up for our text alerts. So especially as new families, if you haven't done that yet, please do that. I'll drop that in the chat. And that'll let you get all kinds of messages from the school. We don't do it very often, but primarily it's for really important information. So it's something important for you to do. I think as far as that, what you guys need to know, those are the things you'll hear from me. But my door is always open as well, and we love great ideas. And you'll hopefully be hearing from me soon with some new exciting fundraising projects that we'll be doing for the school. And I think I get to talk about that a little bit more again later. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Barbara.
Melissa's also helping right now with health services, so she often helps transition new staff members to our cupola staff. And she'll be talking a little bit later about the expansion development position. And she mentioned our board of directors. So as a nonprofit organization, and I'll talk about them a little bit more, but since she mentioned it, we have this group of 7 amazing humans that help us to, they'll review the policies of the school. They meet, gosh, I think we moved to 5 meetings a year now. Right now, they're still meeting virtually. But you can get more information on our website at shinyminds.com. And if you ever want to come to a board meeting, they're open to the public. So, and then Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I work at the Curve Desk. I support attendance, records coming in and out, a lot with health services here lately. I also support with finances and just wherever I'm needed.
Yeah, Kelly was our original finance support person and moved over to the Curve Desk, which has been fantastic because she can take all those skills and help in that position. So anytime that you call the school, you'll probably get Kelly on the phone. And if you need to come pick up a learner, she's probably there to help you too. So always with a smiling face and helping out with all the things that happen up here at the cupola. So, and we have been busy this week for sure. And Paige, our newest member of the cupola staff. Are you on yet, Paige?
I am. I just got home from work, so please forgive me. I'm Paige. I am transitioning into the health services role. And so I help learners with health plans to help develop and write those and maintain those throughout the year. If learners get hurt while at school, I help with that as well. And then I also help support Kelly at the curb desk. So if you don't get Kelly, you usually get me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Paige. And, we call it the curve desk because, when you talk about office, most of us have an impression of what that means. It's the reason I'm not called a principal. It's the reason we don't have a principal. And so when we thought about, well, what do we call this space? And we said cupola because of that beautiful architectural space. And the entry desk at the beginning of the school is kind of curved. And so we call it the curve desk. And so when you hear those words, those were where they come from. And all of us, if you haven't done the virtual tour online, are in a very glassed open space at the entrance of the school. And, we get to all really, work together and communicate in lots of different ways. So awesome. Thank you, cupola staff. And then we have these other two, not humans, but non-humans that are up in the cupola area. So to the left there is Presley, the black dog. Presley started at the school probably, gosh, Caitlin, you might need to help me. 2011. We sent him through special training to be a therapy dog, and then started to work with Tico. Both of those are rescue dogs. They kind of hang in my space. They're 2 of our 6 personal dogs that live at our house that have been trained to work with young people. And so even during COVID, we have visitors every day that come in and meet with Presley and or Tico. And so if you have your child that's struggling, missing you, if they're new, especially if they're a young child, you can always ask their teacher, can they go visit the dogs if you think that would help, because we love to give lots of visitors for that. So before we talk about Montessori history, any questions right now from anything we talked about? Anyone want to put anything in the chat or unmute yourself or raise your digital hand to share anything? Okay. And so we talked a little bit about our start, and I'll share it again. When Glenn and I had our 2 children and we thought we knew learning in school, we both wanted to, figure out what did we believe for our own children. And at that same time, we were watching a segment on Montessori education. I think it was on 60 Minutes. And we both thought, why don't we have this in our community? And so that led to a conversation of visiting a local Montessori school, which we both loved and couldn't believe that we didn't know what that was. We didn't understand how we could watch these children move about a room without someone telling them what to do and where to go, and in every second of the day. And I went to our local school superintendent at the time in Albany-Floyd County, Dr. Ed Adams, and I said, how do we get a Montessori school? And he said, oh, Barbara, they're so expensive. And I said, well, what if I find the money? And I was in my 20s. And he said, oh, I believe in it. I would support. So we didn't find the money, but we found a whole lot of people like you that were really passionate about what Dr. Maria Montessori visioned in the early 1900s to create an environment that was based on respect for young people and that followed a learning process less about what we put into children and more about how we let them become the best version of themselves. And when our staff works with young people and observes what they're doing and gives them what they need and shows them lessons that they're ready for, we find that learning happens so naturally. And just like that many of you saw with your own children when you help them to learn to walk and to talk. So, Dr. Montessori was a visionary. She was one of the first women doctors in Italy. She developed this tremendous respect for young children. And through her observations and her studies to be a doctor, she used those skills of observation to create learning environments that were personalized and not everyone doing the same thing. And when I went to Cincinnati to get my master's in Montessori education, it helped me to rethink of what I believed. My undergraduate degree was in education. I thought I knew how schools and learning worked until I went back and discovered and was curious and studied the philosophy of Dr. Maria Montessori. So we're not going to get into that whole process today. You're learning about it from your child's teachers. We'll talk about some components of it today. I'll give you lots of resources. And I will tell you, and this is also probably to encourage more of you to do so, being a sub in the building will be the best teacher. So we have some tremendous subs that later became even staff members from learning this process. So it's helped me to be a better partner with Glenn and a better parent to my children and a better grandparent to my grandchildren. So we talked about that Community Montessori is a nonprofit organization. When I was working with Dr. Adams about trying to create a Montessori school in our community, I learned about charter school law. And at the time, Indiana didn't have charter school education. They didn't have schools when we started the school in 1998. But what I learned was that there were several legislators that were working on trying to create charter schools in Indiana. So I started working with them. And every year I went up to help testify on a personal level. I had several parents that helped in that process. When the law passed in 2001, much to our surprise, we went back to our families. At that point, it was a group of about 200 in one of our rooms up at Highlander Point, which is where the school was at that point. And I said, here's the positives, a list of them. One of them was tuition free, obviously. And here's a list of areas that we were maybe concerned about, one of them being standardized education. And some of you are on the call today and you're still trying to figure out, what is this weird school where children put their materials on a rug and sit beside them? And how do you know what children are learning and what to do? And you don't say good job. And all of those things that we do have a strong rationale and a reason behind them, because we want to create the best environment for children, to help to nurture them, to help them to feel empowered, to help them to learn how to self-regulate and be intrinsically motivated. Some of what we believe is the most important skills of all humans. So if you're here as an early childhood, which is the majority of you, you know that you'll still have to convert to be part of the charter school at some point, which is then where it becomes tuition free. And, you will maybe go through a lottery if you're enrolled in an early childhood program, or you have a sibling at the school, you have preference to the school. But we have applications for the charter school every fall with a deadline of the first Friday in December. And then we host a lottery in January, February. And we have several things that we work in with children, not just the academic piece. We have 8 constructs that we work towards for each young person: intellectual, social, emotional, ethics, wellness, creativity, one that's called aesthetics, helping them find the beauty in things, as well as what we call school success, are those pieces like for the SAT or for standardized testing. We do that as one piece of what we do, not as what we do and not as who we are. So we have about 600 children, infants through high school. We're full with a wait list in most environments and most areas. We have a couple of spots, I think, open in our teens program. Otherwise, there is a wait list throughout the building. It's humbling. It's hard when families come. Right now, we're still doing virtual tours to come and see the school and finally find, like, this is what I've been looking for. And we say, oh, sorry, you're on the wait list right now. Hopefully things will change. And we don't ever know about that. Some of you on the call might even have a child or a teen that's still on the wait list for this year. And that's part of what Glenn does as well, is that when an opening comes available, he goes to our wait list, start calling families. Sometimes the first family takes the spot, and sometimes we might go 3 or 4 families into the application, until the lottery wait list, until we can fill that spot. Dr. Maria Montessori said, observe the child, do not intervene. This approach requires a lot of patience and discipline, but is absolutely necessary. From those observations, curate and prepare an environment best suited for his or her developmental stage and interest. And that is something maybe unique to the United States. She developed this thought process in Europe, but it is growing. The Montessori philosophy and the method came to the United States in the early 1960s. There are thousands now of Montessori schools throughout the nation, as well as many, many more high schools than when we started in the early 2000s. But when we watch a child and we observe them, and some of you might know this and remember this from when your child was just an infant or a toddler, and we try, even as educators at all stages of development, not to intervene with the natural process of learning. And so when we see a child struggling, we hold and we wait. And if they ask us for help, we only give them what they need in order for them to be successful. And so that whole process, for some of us, it's a shift in paradigm. It's a whole different thought than what we learned, because maybe we went to a school or had a family life that was more traditional, that you told your child what to do, when to do it, how to get it done, where you had an environment that believed more that the child should be the listener and the adult to be the talker. And what you won't see in the school, if you're walking through a building, you'd see lots of children that are happy, which is beautiful right now. But what you'd also see is adults that aren't yelling at children. You would not see adults that are talking and everyone's listening at the same time. You'd see young people moving about, choosing some things, maybe sitting with a small group at a lesson, maybe sitting in a small group. I walked through a 9 to 12-year-old environment today, and I saw a child giving a lesson to 9 other children. And it's just the way the philosophy works. Like, we create environments where children really learn through auto education. And our role is just to pop in, give the necessary information, and then remove ourselves again and let them take over. That doesn't mean Algebra 2 always comes naturally, right? And so there is most certainly lessons and learning that happen with each developmental stage, for sure. So, part of you becoming part of the Community Montessori family is this, right? And trying to help you to maybe, if you're open to it, create an environment at home that's similar to what we're doing here. What we have found is that children and teens that attend Community Montessori that have a family structure at home similar to what we're trying to do here are the most successful. Sometimes a family will come and they think it's the right fit, and then they get busy and they're not really engaged with what is happening. And it is what I think is the biggest tragedy of our school environment, is because sometimes that child becomes displaced and they're not successful because we're not all on the same page. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything we do. You are welcome to question any of us at any time. Actually, we encourage you to do so. We are here as a part of this environment. That doesn't mean that you will agree with everything that we do. And so if you find something that's challenging, we talk about it. We work hard to not be an environment that uses gossip or talks passively to others. We just talk respectfully, compassionately to one another about whatever the need is, and then we work from there. And so we really, we thrive best, and so do children when we're in that level of setting. So here are some things you could do at home for consistency. And again, this will be videotaped, and we'll have this the slideshow linked so you can look at it again. Feel free to write down or ask any questions as we're talking about it. But these are some of the things that you can do right now to help with that. So model the behavior you'll want to see with your child. No double standards. And I was thinking today, like, what was the example I might want to share? And probably one of the biggest that we've all seen over the past 18 months is technology. When we recognized that maybe our child was doing more technology than we wanted them to do, but we were trying to work and they were trying to go to school, or we just developed some patterns and habits. And so we tell our child, like, you have limits and you can't do this, and you're not going to get your cell phone until this time, but yet we have our cell phone out and we say, yes, but I'm the adult, right? And so we encourage you to not have double standards. And instead, think about if you are trying to do a technology cleanse or a screen cleanse at your house, like, participate, be a part of that dialogue with them. And so talking as a family, having a family meeting. So I've noticed that we've got comfortable. Each of us are going to our own rooms, and we're all getting on our devices, and we're not spending time together. So I want to bring this to the family that I'm concerned about it. And you brainstorm about it. Now, that's harder if you have a 1-year-old or a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. But as they get older, giving them what they need. And so talking about what the needs are of each one of the family members so that they can each have a way to address that particular piece. So we work hard at school. If children can't bring coffee into the environment, we don't bring coffee into the environment. If children don't sit on the tables, we don't sit on the tables. So we work hard in this environment, and we encourage you to do the same, is to only do what is appropriate or acceptable for the whole family. Just out of curiosity, if you could raise your digital hand if you've heard of the word interdiscipline. A few of you, yeah. Does anyone want to take a stab at it? Share your perspective on that or definition? They're like, you just told me to raise my hand, that's it. Emily, did you want to give it a shot? No. I thought you were getting ready to unmute yourself. So interdiscipline is really about, like making good choices, being intrinsic about it without anyone else watching. And so I love to work with 5- and 6-year-olds when they hit that developmental stage, and sometimes it comes earlier, and they learn how to lie or how to not show the thing that because they notice you're not watching, and so now they can eat that extra cookie or grab something that they know they're not supposed to be touching when you're not watching. And that's all very normal and typical development, and there's nothing wrong with that. And as we see those things happen and we talk to our child about it, what we want them to do is to recognize internally and have that interdiscipline so that someone else doesn't have to tell them. Like we decided that we were only going to have one cookie, and I just noticed that you put one in your pocket. And so I wondered if you wanted to share something that you're thinking about right now about that. And the child might say, like, I want another cookie. And you're like, I hear you, but we talked about if we're going to have cookies in our house, that we're going to limit how many cookies we eat in a day. And when you put it in your pocket, I kind of felt like that you were disagreeing with the plan that we already made. And even a 4 or 5-year-old, you can have this conversation, and you can help them to develop interdiscipline. When I first went to school to be a teacher, I worked more on external discipline techniques or praise and rewards. And instead of a child learning how to self-regulate their discipline and do it for reasons inside, they would wait until they got caught or got in trouble. And so we try as a school not even to use the words in trouble. And when a child says, like, am I in trouble? We'll say to them, like, we don't have in trouble at our school. Like, you make choices and consequences happen to your choices. Sometimes you like the consequences. Sometimes you don't. And those things help to feed interdiscipline instead of children waiting for us to tell them that something was right or wrong or good or bad. And so we want to, we encourage you to think through that with your family. For some of us on the call, we've created more rigid ways of being a family. And so dad's role is this, other dad's role is this, or mom's role is this, or siblings' role is this. And we encourage you instead to try to work more as a collaborative community. And most certainly adults need to be firm sometimes. That happens. That happens here too. But we try not to make that the go-to, where the child thinks that only the adult gets to make the decision. And so you said that, Mom, and you said it was a family decision about cookies, but I never agreed to that. Like, oh, so you're feeling like I made a decision without you agreeing to it. So here's the deal. I did this research on health, and I don't believe that any of us should eat much sugar. And so you're right. In this situation, that's my belief. And as you get older, you might have a different belief than that. And so I am okay with us not getting cookies if they're going to be too much of a distraction for you. They're like, wait, I want to have cookies. Okay, but here's the deal. What's important to me is we read that article. Remember, you and I talked about sugar. those kinds of things. So we do those conversations together with them to help them to become a member of the community, right? And in addition to that, we use encouragement over praise. And so, yeah, we don't say good job in our school. Weird, I know. And for some of you, you're going, what? How am I going to do that? How am I going to make home and school similar to that? Well, one way we encourage you is to think about, are you in line with interdiscipline? And if so, using more things that are based on encouragement over praise will help that child to self-regulate their discipline better. Maria Montessori said that even when she was working with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, that she knew the sign of success is when she could walk out of the room without the children noticing that she wasn't there. Can you imagine? A room of 25 3, 4, and 5-year-olds where an adult, and it happens, I think every early ed teacher can tell you, they can walk out, not this first week of school, but soon, and children won't even know that they're not there because we've created the environment to be towards interdiscipline. I'll give you this short story. I love this story. This young person's in the teens program now, but when it was their first week of school in the 3, 4, and 5-year-old program, they were carrying a pitcher of water and they were taking it over to do a scrubbing activity. And so they filled up the pitcher of water. Now, this may have been the first time this child was ever able to get water from the sink on their own in their life, right? And here they are at school. They've got this pitcher and they fill it up. Now, there could not have been one more drop of water that could have fit into this pitcher. And here goes the child walking across the room with this pitcher. They take the first step. What happened? Slosh, the water comes out. Instantly, they look up. Oh my gosh, you can see the look on their face. They're in trouble. They're looking. I can see the teacher over there. I'm not sure. Out of the corner of their eye, I think she saw, but she didn't make any motion. So he's like, okay, got away with that. He takes another step. Slosh looks around again like, oh my gosh, I'm sure I'm in trouble now. Nothing, no reaction, no response. He goes, oh, this is a great school, right? He takes another step. This time, the pitcher's about half empty because it's sloshed on the floor. And nothing comes out. So then he starts pouring the water onto the floor and he starts dancing around in the water, right? And so maybe in a more traditional, typical school setting, the teacher might go, no. You know, they might give them directions across the room. They might tell them to put that away. They might tell them they can't do it. They might tell them to go sit somewhere in the room. But in a school that's based on interdiscipline, we try to help them to recognize it on their own. And we don't want to be the only one talking. And so we are all children and we are all teachers and we are all learners at this school. So the child's dancing in the water. A child next to him, maybe about a 5-year-old, looks over. You can see them kind of roll their eyes and they say to this younger child, can you please go get the mop and clean up our floor? Now this 3-year-old looks at this 5-year-old and says, like, what? Why are you talking to me? Like, I thought the teacher would talk to me. Thinking, you can just imagine what they're thinking. And so the 5-year-old says, come on, I'll show you. So he takes him over to the space where all the cleaning equipment was. So he gets a mop. He shows him how to put a towel on the bottom of this mop. And he takes him over, gives him a lesson on how to clean up the floor. And there this child goes for, I'm going to say 10 minutes. There was not one bit of water on this floor afterwards. And that is the difference in our school. Like that's when we know we are successful, when the environment can create itself around it. And for most of you on the call, you're thinking, I want a home like that. I want a home where the child does those pieces independently without me saying, do this, and then do this, and then do this. And I really believe, and I think Maria Montessori was a genius, but what she realized is each time we tell a child what to do, we've removed that opportunity for them to create interdiscipline. And so think about that. And each time we praise a child, we do the same thing. You know, if he took a step and he didn't spill it and he got praised for it, then now he's still looking for that adult for external, reward or information instead of recognizing in their own way And so, weeks later, I went down and saw this young person. And what I didn't see anymore was them having the deer in the headlight look, them trying to hide what they were doing from other people. Like, they were a member of a community, and that matters. And, we encourage, so when you've had children here since the time they were 3, 5, 7, they develop into different older young people, and so that's what we think is so important. And then this whole idea of purposeful developmental independence. Some of the early childhood families might hear the staff saying, like, helping them put their own clothes on. And you're like, but it's so much easier to do it for them. It takes like 1 second. If I ask them to put on their shoes, it's a 15-minute ordeal. I don't have that time. And we all have to choose our times and when we can put forward to that. But the more we can help that 4-year-old to put their own shoes on or their own clothes, it creates a developmental independence that, again, encourages that sense of community. The more we have that 15-year-old who's struggling in a social situation, like if your old way of being was that you call the school or you email the teacher, we ask you to stop and think about what's the individual developmental independence that you can support for that young person. And so, what we hope that you do instead with that 14-year-old young person, and they say, this person was mean to me, they're mean to me every day, they've said awful things to me, and then you say, gosh, did you talk to one of the adults, the teachers in your room, and ask for help? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting anyone else involved. Yeah, but you've talked about that for 3 days. Seems like it's really upsetting to you. So why don't you email your teacher that you want to have a conversation with them tomorrow, and so they can help. And that this is what we do. When we're struggling, we ask for help. Help is okay. And that encourages developmental independence. And we could give examples all throughout the building of that. Self-regulation, the same way. Beside and with instead of beside and with instead of for and to. So instead of us doing it for them and showing them and telling them what to do, we want to be beside them. So when we're encouraging self-regulation, whether that's emotions, whether that's self-regulating eating independently or opening up containers for lunch or making lunch the night before, self-regulation is helping them to do that, independently, developmentally, and to self-regulate instead of us saying things like, okay, you lose your gaming device for 2 weeks because X happened. That's the opposite of self-regulation, right? So if we want to help that young person to self-regulate a gaming device, then we would sit with them and watch them do it, and then we would give them feedback. Like, I'm noticing that we got this gaming device because you told me about all of these academic things you were going to do with it. And I'm noticing that you are on Discord for 7 hours a day. And I'm wondering what we're going to do to go back to the goal that we set for the gaming device. And so we have these kinds of conversations to help them to recognize, and we sit down and read an article with them, a science article about what happens with technology in the brain of young people. I was reading today, I was about this article that was sharing that they're encouraging no tackle football for children under the age of 14. And the interviewer was saying, well, why is it the age of 14? Has something happened to their brain at that point that makes it less likely for them to have brain injuries that could lead to CTE? And the person was like, no, the research shows that if you don't start playing until the age of 14, you're less likely to get CTE because you're playing tackle football less. So, if your child's like, I want to play tackle football, and you read this article with them, it helps them to be more empowered in that situation. And hopefully, they're like, gosh, I've noticed that when I did play tackle football, these were the things that happened, and I did have headaches a lot, and I'm wondering if that's what I want to do to my brain. Maybe I do want to wait till I'm 14. And then sometimes as parents, we may make those decisions for them too. Conscious parenting. So I'm going to show you a few books. I love this book by Dr. Shafali Sabari, called Conscious Parenting. She has a whole series of books. Is that in? Yeah. And so it might be something that you choose to read or to get on your audio, but it's one that I really recommend. And it really talks about all the things that we just talked about. One of the great examples I think she gave in this book was if you locked your keys in the car, like you really don't want your spouse or partner to say to you, like, why did you lock your keys in the car? Like, why didn't you hold on to your keys? You know, like no one wants to hear that. But how many times do we say that to children? Right? Like, where's your toothbrush? You know what you have to do with your tennis shoes. You're like, where's your this? You know, like none of us like to hear that. And so part of conscious parenting is to, you know, treat others the way we want to be treated, you know, to really be thoughtful first. Like, if I don't want someone to talk to me like that, I probably shouldn't do that to them. If you want to learn more about, so let me talk about this one too. I love this book. It's probably, you know, one of my most recommended. Kids Are Worth It by Barbara Coloroso. And Melissa, maybe you could just pop these in the chat, the names of these books. And, you know, it really is a powerful book about, you know, how to really speak and give our children reverence. And so if that's something you're working on as a family, this might be a place that you want to start. How to talk so kids will listen and listen so kids will talk. There's also one about how to talk so teens will listen and listen so teens will talk. Oftentimes, about the age of 11 or 12, parents start saying, well, my child just like, I don't ever really talk to them anymore. And so, you know, here are some really good strategies to do those pieces with. And this is the way we talk with young people here. And so, you know, we try to talk in ways that don't make them feel on guard. And so this gives you some really great ideas about that. Some Montessori philosophy books, which I have lots and lots of books in my space. So if you want any ideas, feel free to email me at any time. This was actually written by a parent of a child in a Montessori school, Montessori Madness. And so Trevor Eisler actually had his child in his school, and he thought, we need more books to give families ideas about what the Montessori philosophy is. And so this is from a parent argument for Montessori education. So might give you some good information. Sometimes families are like, you know, their neighbors or siblings will be like, I don't understand. What is Montessori? So that might be a good way. And then some of you might really want to know, like, what is the science behind the Montessori philosophy? Why is it so popular? You know, why is there such a long wait list? Why what's the reason for all of that? This was actually written by a scientist, a woman who went through Montessori education from the age, you know, of I think 6. And she wrote this book, and it's a scientific research book. Anyway, it's got some great thoughts in there. It can, you know, help you to even like, why is this what we do? And you'll hear maybe like early childhood teachers say a lot that a 3 and 4 and 5-year-old is in the sensitive period for language. And so it will give you the why behind that and give you that piece of information. So I just kind of finished with help your child to self-advocate, set personal boundaries, and show respect and care for others. And so at any point, if your child or teen is struggling with anything, you know, like be that conscious parent and think about how can I help them to learn or grow from this experience, or self-advocate, or show them ways to feel a sense of empowerment in a situation instead of feeling like we, the adults, have to come in and save or fix this situation. Okay, I'm sure there's some comments or thoughts right now. Anybody? I could talk all day. You get this, you know. We're about to finish up. We'll finish up the next few minutes. Here's just some basic things that might be different at Community Montessori. So you've seen the emails. I'm sure if you're not getting any emails for any reason, Prina is your person. Feel free to send her an email. Prina, maybe drop your email in the chat there. And so if you haven't gotten, the cupola notes come out almost every Monday. The studio emails come out almost every Friday. And so if you're not getting those, drop your name in there and we'll figure out the why behind that. But this last week, we talked about absence waivers. We've been linking that. So if your child is not at school, maybe they're quarantining, maybe you're going on a family trip, make a plan with the teachers, and then we can try to waive the absence for that time period. Reading emails, I know we send a lot. We just really want to help everyone to be together and on the same page. And we know that you get a lot of things that you have to put attention towards. But we really encourage that you read the emails, that you ask questions. Like, we are here to help. We want to make this the best transition we can. Sometimes families forget, or maybe they didn't realize or know that we have multi-age environments. And so I was talking to a family at the beginning of the year that said, I think my child's in the wrong environment because they're going to be a kinder and they're with the early childhood. And it is confusing because we call kinders early childhood. And so that incorporates 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, which is that kinder year. And we have multi-age environments all throughout the building. Sometimes we move children to different levels, different times for different reasons, but most of the time they're in the same environment for 3 years, or in the teens. It's a little bit different than that. It's a 2 and a 4 year process. Snack and lunches. We do really encourage really healthy eating practices. We encourage you to have your child, even a very young child, can put their own food and lunch and snacks into their own lunchbox or containers or baggie. Thinking about what can best, if they can't open up a Ziploc bag, don't put it in a Ziploc bag. Maybe you want to get a bag. My daughter was showing me some that she just found recently that had a little zipper that are easier for a younger child's hands, or a little container that pops open. And so practicing with them, showing them different options and putting things together that they can do themselves. You know, for a teen, they might be like, I don't want to eat. And you're like, how about you just take some granola, some green beans, you know, an oat milk for lunch. And so helping them to find things that will keep their energy going, that is something that follows your health guidelines. And there are ways for children to warm up food. We do ask that you don't bring things that are frozen, because we have many children that want to warm up, so they can heat it beforehand and then just reheat it for 20 seconds or so when they get to school. Snacks the same way, so we really encourage fruits and vegetables. Some levels have eggs and cheese as well. Some parents are like, what do I bring? You know, you could peel a cutie. You can put a couple of cuties in a container, which is like one of those little clementines. Carrots, you know, and sometimes you might think that your child needs to have dip, but I will tell you that they just don't. And so, you know, it is okay to give them things that they're not always know if they always eat with you, because they will eat differently when they're at school. And what a great time to share those things. Birthdays, every level and every studio does it a little bit different, but oftentimes we do celebrate. If your family celebrates birthdays, we will help them to have some kind of celebration here. So just talk to your teachers about that. Sometimes they'll ask you to send pictures. In many of the early ed and elementary studios, they do a process where the earth revolves around the sun, and they talk about each year of their life so far on earth. And so it could be a very beautiful process. Just touch base with the teachers if you don't know that already. Each environment is prepared and based on the age level of those children. So if you go to the substitute workshop, you'll learn more about that prepared environment and what that means and how you can help. Some families will know that there's these work rugs in almost all of the studios. And so your volunteering might be to ask the studio if you can launder those once a week. And so your child can bring them home on Friday and you can bring them back Monday morning. So any ways you can help with that, we are always greatly appreciative. We have talked so much about drop-off and pickup time. I will make sure that if you have any questions, I want to answer those, but I won't get into that whole process, as it's been a big topic of conversation over the past week. We do encourage you not to idle your cars during drop-off and pickup. We know that could be hard if you have a young baby or an elderly person in your car, so we trust you. But if you can not do that, that would be lovely. You know, just attendance, we just really encourage you to communicate if your child's going to be late. I am shocked how much families have been on time and in their right time period. Fantastic. So thank you. And we know things happen, and don't worry if you're late, just call 948-1000 and we'll get you to your studio. The 10-minute commitment of each, sometimes families talk about that. We aren't really having observers in the building. We do make a concession for early childhood families at the beginning of the year. You most certainly won't be able to come in the building and have 10 minutes of that time with your child in the building, but you can have that time at home and talk to them about, like, tell me which material you used today. Did you eat snack with anyone? Who did you sit with for lunch? What lessons did you have today? Those are all ways that you can have that 10 minutes with your child to talk about their day. If you say things like, how was your day? You're probably going to get the answers that we give as adults, which might be fine, or I don't want to talk about it. So, but if you're specific, if your spouse says to you, what happened this afternoon in your day? Anything exciting that we can talk about together? Then it kind of makes you think about it. Yeah, actually, I had this event happen and it worked out better than I thought it was going to. So the more specific you are, the better that helps with families. Allison.
Hey, yeah, she's working with the kids, but
oh, okay, sorry. Yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, I'm Jakob, but I was wondering, it's my 3-year-old's first week this week, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around really anything that's going on, because it's hard to I'm having a hard time getting some clarity on everything that's going on. But
sure.
From what I understand, I think is there any way to get even more of a tangible understanding of what he's doing on a daily basis? I think is there like a is it virtual or in-person observation? I can't remember.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, those are good questions. Actually, observations start, is it next Monday, Karina, the sign up?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a sign up that I think was in your studio emails, but Prina, maybe you can drop those in the chat. Is that an option?
It's specific for each studio, so referring for each studio will be helpful.
Yeah. And so what is your name? Sorry, I don't want to call you Allison.
That's okay. It's Jakob.
Jakob. So you can sign up for a time. I think it's like a 15-minute time frame for you just to pop in, and you could be in the observation window and watch. But I will tell you, because I'm down there every single day, that most of what they're doing is they're learning about their environment. And so there are lots of materials. So instead of like in a traditional pre-K environment where children like rotate to centers, there are things all throughout the room that they get lessons on. That doesn't mean they have to like do it right, but they show them how to properly handle the material or carry it to a rug. And you will be shocked, in a few weeks. I mean, it's still, there's some of the studios have 20 or 25 new kids in the building. So it could be a lot of action right now. But mostly what you'll see is children learning to be a part of the environment. You might see a few children eating at a table. You might see a teacher over with 3 or 4 children at a rug, or a teacher with 1 child, or a child just choosing something on their own. And so oftentimes, different personalities, they might do the same thing every day they walk in the room. So you might hear your child say, I did the cubes. And you're like, what are the cubes? And those are just perfect questions to ask your teacher. My child has brought up that they've been doing the Tower of Cubes. Can you tell me what that is? And they can help. Those are good questions. When you say, how's my child doing? They're going to say like, yeah, they're getting acclimated, or they've started to do some materials, or those kinds of things. But any specific wording that your child gives, feel free to reach out to the teachers about that too, because they can help. Thank you, Jakob.
I am copying the sign up links for observation for each studio for early ed in the chat.
Great.
So you're welcome to click on that.
Perfect. Thanks, Brina.
Thank you.
So we do a lot of communication. So parent partner conferences, you had your first one already. I hope that was really helpful. We'll have another one in November and February and May. And so it's a great time to come together as a community. It's less about the adult telling you all the things and more about you all working as a community, talking about the child. When the child is ready, usually elementary and up, they participate in the PPC, the Parent Partner Conference as well. So that's also really beautiful. Again, about the substitute workshop, you can RSVP for that too. That's coming up in just a couple of weeks. We don't know if we're going to have a child's work night or how that might work. So we'll give you more information about that. It's a way outside of COVID for families to kind of come in and rotate in an environment and watch their child. It's not the same as them being there without you, but it gives you kind of an idea, and you get to see some of the materials too. So we talked about read emails. The family handbook is also a really good tool. The COVID plan that we have is linked to the family handbook. So, when you and your spouse or significant other are having a date night, just pull up the family handbook and quiz each other on it. That's always a lot of fun, but it'll give you some good insights. We do look at it and write new information every single year to try to help it to be a really important tool for our families. Melissa Wiesinger talked about the Informed Montessori blog. I think she even linked the spring celebration in the chat earlier. So the blog is so helpful. There are lots and lots of workshops on there and resources. Last year we had a specialist come in that does RDI, relationship developmental intervention. And so Heather, I think her name was Heather. But anyway.
Heather
So
Benner.
Yes, thank you.
Barbara, can I say one quick thing while you're on that?
Yeah.
So many of the most recent posts have had to do with our COVID information, which of course you're welcome to review and is important information. But at the top of the blog, there are buttons that you can click by age level and topic.
Good.
And so I just encourage people to do that so that you can kind of zone in on some things that might be most helpful. And if you just click the button PIP workshops, that'll pull up all the most awesome videos that we've done with our staff and other people, including that Heather Ole. So I would just recommend you look for that PIP workshop button, and that'll kind of filter down to that useful information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, I get to talk.
That's right. Go right ahead.
Barbara, real quick, you wanted me to share a document, and I think I missed the moment. Do you want me to go ahead and drop that, staff?
Yeah, go ahead and drop it. It's called a communication hints. And so sometimes families will say, like, I don't know what to say instead of good job, or I don't know what to say instead of, that's wrong or that's not right. And so please, we encourage you to look over this document together with, any of the caregivers to help you raise your children, because it has some really good, consistent wording in there that we highly recommend as a part of our school family. Thanks, Melissa.
So I did mention some of this earlier, and this is small for me, so hopefully you guys can read my little tiny letters there. But with expansion development, we kind of just try to find a way for families to support all the different things that are happening in the school. And that can be lots of different ways. I put a picture here that I loved from last year of a family that helped stock our food pantry. And that really was a community project to try to support our local community and our school families. And so we try to do ideas like that. We are very excited to get started soon to revive our outdoor master plan for the school. So hopefully you'll be hearing more about that. And we did do a presentation on that for a PIP workshop last March, kind of right before COVID really. Yeah, that was last March, right? The March before last, actually.
Yeah, that's right. 1.5 years ago.
Which seems not so long ago in some ways. And really shared some of the goals there. And obviously with the impact of COVID is even more important because we realize how important our outdoor spaces are to kind of help us with just allowing people to be together and be together safely. Barbara mentioned the blog. We support all kinds of really unique projects like islands, occupations, and 9 to 12 explorations, which usually are very hands-on learning and involve art or gardening or building or video and audio. We had a movie made, which you can find on our YouTube channel by some of our teen learners. So a lot of times those things, aren't necessarily like your pens and pencils and other things that you might get for basic supplies. And so those are areas where families can support and help those projects happen. We also do some of that through our PIP grants, which they talked a little bit about earlier, and you can support those in really simple ways. But every year at enrollment, we do give everyone an opportunity to support the school financially. And even a small gift and a regular monthly gift can make a huge difference for the school. You know, $10 a month or something like that can be done really easily, and you can use your fax account to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll put my email in the chat as well, and that's something you can reach out to me about. I'd be happy to help you get that set up. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, but that's just a little plug for continuing to improve our school.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. So I wanted to give a chance, and some of you may have been on the video call last week, or see if there's any questions about any of the COVID protocols, or anything that would be helpful, or any suggestions. You know, either way, we'd love to hear. Well, we must have just nailed it. I don't know.
I guess I have one question, if you don't
Sure.
mind. Yeah, the 3-year-old, I guess, we're supposed to have a lanyard, and I couldn't figure out if the mask's supposed to be hooked on the lanyard. And
Oh, good question.
I
Yeah.
couldn't figure that one out.
Yeah, the hope is that if they have a lanyard that clicks on to both of the ear loops of the mask, like when they're outside playing, they can take their mask off. But if they sit down and start playing with the child, they can put it back on again. And that way they can just keep it near them and they don't lose it. So yeah, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else? That? So these are just some reminders of things that we've already talked about. You know, there's all kinds of ways that the staff all have bios on their website. And so you can go to the staff contacts and learn about your child's teacher. Most of them put that in their welcome letter. You know, most of the staff have voicemails. So there's a link on there to get to everyone's voicemails, you know, how to log your volunteer hours, and like we talked about with the Informed Montessori blog as well. So I just want to say thank you each very much for, you know, helping us, making us a partner in your child's education and trusting us. And, you know, I just want you to know we don't take this lightly, and we are so grateful and have so much gratitude for each of you for trusting us with this very, very important job. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to tell us, you know, if you're worried or need something. Like, we are here to help. So we'll stay on if anyone has any questions, and let you get on to your evening, and have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
You're muted, Prerna.
I think Barbara left. We need to stop the recording.
Oh shoot. Can one of us stop it?
Yeah, I can.